Hey guys, it's Jamie from Recovery Inspired Hope, and I'm so excited today to bring you Mac, the creator of the Fucking Sober podcast, which is relatively new, but I had stumbled upon it on Instagram, and I was just blown away, just wishing when when I first listened to it, like, wow, this is really neat. It's very creative. It's funny, and really wishing that when I was in early recovery, I had something like this to listen to. So thank you so much for your hard work in doing this and just making recovery just something that is more appealing to people. So tell us like a little bit about yourself because you're in recovery as well.
Yes. Yeah. Well, firstly, we do the thing that you do. Like, thank you for even facilitating this dialogue. Thank you for having me on your show. So important having shows like yours. Just again, you just shouted the same thing out to me. I want to shout it right back out to you before I even dive in. Like the talking about it is how we normalize it. The destigmatizing of it is how we allow people to not have to like reach a bottom that they can't come out of. And I mean, this is the sharing of it. So one, thank you. And that's exactly what Fucking Sober, the podcast is. The sort of tagline is Fucking Sober the First 90 Days. Season 1 is about Anita, which is a fictionalized version of myself. My middle name is Anita, so it's like not that far-fetched. Like we're not really creating a whole bunch. But the first question a lot of people ask when they hear that, it's like, how much is real and how much is fake? So I sort of say like 70-30. And some of it is like other people's stories. Some of it is how I wish the stories had turned out. But mostly it's Anita going through day 1, day 4, day 14, day 30, 45, 60, 75, 90, like in 8 episodes and seeing like where she's at. And we start 90 days because in recovery, if you do any 12-step program, you do the first 90 days, you count the days. And that's what I needed when I first started recovery. But I'll tell a little bit about my story. So I've known about recovery for 10 years. I'm an ex-heroin addict. I'm an addict through and through. I got my clean dates in April of 2011. And I had since when I speak in the rooms of AA, just speak to my story about alcohol. But I have been, I love relapsing. It's just a huge part of my story. I'm a big fan of going back out to like really work on that qualification, really nail it in. And my sobriety date in terms of alcohol is October 6th, 2019. So we're back around yet another time. And it's, this time when I walked back into the room, I had seen it coming 3 months before, and it was just one of those. I was like, I actually qualified last night, and so there's a little bit of my regurgitation of that. But when I first drank, my first sip of alcohol when I was like 10, I really felt like the words. I love stealing other people's words, but I had arrived, and then when I came back into the rooms after relapsing so many times and knowing that it was there for me, I had a head full of AA during all through of my, all the relapses of my using. When I came back, I felt like I had arrived again because these are my people. Like, you guys are my people. You get it. You laugh at the same things. And I have a community of people who are not in recovery, and they are empathetic and they are lovely, but they're not us. We're special.
Where are you at?
So I live in New York City. I live in Brooklyn with my partner. And I've been here for I think I just celebrated my 9th year in New York. So it to me feels like home. I moved to New York City from Chicago and I basically came here because I couldn't drive a car because I had too many DUIs. So might have well moved to New York where you have really good public transportation. And I'll also say like, just God's little push because I had been trying to get sober. And in New York City, you have a meeting every hour on the hour, like anywhere. I mean, it's just like you can't even, there are no excuses. Even before the apps were a thing, you sort of like called intergroup and they'd be like, yeah, you're like a block away from a meeting, like no matter where you were. And it's starting at, in 30 minutes. It was just like, it was the only place I could come to, I could have, with my disposition, with my willfulness, it was the only place I could have even started my sober journey. And then also with so many examples of people who are young in recovery. So I came into recovery for the first time when I was 24, 25. I'm 34 now. It's taken me 10 years to get it. Who knows if I got it? I'm trying. You know, all that accumulated time I think is good. But when I first walked in the room, it's like, oh girl, you are so young. Like stay, stay, stay. And now they don't say you're so young anymore. They're just like, stay. Like, one day, like you stop being like cute one getting sober. Now you're like, yeah, you need to stop. It's real old. So that's a little bit of my story with recovery. And then I'll tied into the podcast. I'm also an actor. Acting is part of my story in terms of getting clean. Just because I think whatever your thoughts are about how actors do their work, I couldn't look into somebody else's eyes. I think people relate with that with regular life, but I couldn't work with other people because I was always masking and hiding and numbing and afraid of getting caught, and couldn't hold eye contact with people because I thought I would get caught, right? I was always so fearful of getting caught, because if I got caught, then I couldn't use the way I wanted to use. And then people also would know that I wasn't as funny, or wasn't as excited, or wasn't as joyful, or wasn't whatever, getting caught. And so I had to learn how to start tapering off my drug story. And then I could appropriately, because alcohol is a lot more accepted in regular society, drink the way I wanted to drink. And it was even cool, especially in the culture of like arts. But so I'm an actor. It's, my story with the recovery has really served me, because recovery requires you to really know yourself. And I think any artist, a lot of the journey, I know it sounds pretentious, but like any art form, anybody who wants to live on the planet successfully, like tries to get to know themselves. And I had wanted to do this podcast before my last relapse. So it's been sitting in my head, because my first go, especially coming off of strong opiates, like I couldn't sit still. I couldn't sit still with myself. And I, tried to, would listen to music all day long. I would Netflix all day long. This is right around the time also when you can Netflix on your phone. Like I'm like talking about like back in the day, it's crazy. But all of that helped. But I liked things like, everyone knows, like This American Life and like the Moth Radio Hour. I liked stories. I've always liked stories. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to become an actor. I like telling stories. And, the same format happens in the rooms. Like, again, like people tell these incredible stories, and it's just, it makes sitting in a room for an hour manageable, right? So I think in 2017, I had the first idea. But I was just too on fire inside. And then I ended up relapsing. And I've been working on the script for a while, but it really was the whole thing. And I'm so glad that, you had said that thing about you wished you had it when you were, first sober, because that's who I made it for. I made it for the person who is, wondering if they should stay. And this particular episode is about the person who's like young. I wrote it about, it's not too far-fetched, but the who I wrote it for was me when I was first getting sober, right? Like, what is AA? Is AA right for me? Do I have the willfulness to like am I too willful, and can I let go? And is getting sober right for me? And I don't answer that question, but she does stay sober for 90 days, and what it can feel like to start to unpeel some of the stuff, just some of the stuff. And I think one of the reasons is there are amazing recovery, like our community, man, we have so many people who just want to help other people, and they want to share their story. If you go on Instagram for 5 minutes, people are eloquently sharing their experience, or they're in interview styles like with you, and they're just like, I love that I can hear it now. In early recovery, I didn't want to hear how well other people were doing, it just didn't seem possible for me. I think that was more I kept being like, oh, I'm one of those unfortunates, right? Again, I'm, an AA person, but I'm one of those unfortunates. I'm not going to get it. So, yeah, more than anything, I wanted to be able to kind of marry the art form of like a radio play with like a big, long qualification, but in little chunks, because the episodes are about 25 minutes long. So just a little bit over than a qualification, and not to do my best to just say, this is her experience, just like a qualification does, right? This is my experience with getting sober. This is Anita's experience of getting sober. And it doesn't have to be yours. And you may or may not identify with stuff. But maybe you're entertained enough to stick around and listen for something that you identify with. But yeah, it sort of became this, like, you know, as things do, just like all these pieces of my life coming together. And then quarantine happened, and it just became the right time to create. So
I can definitely relate to that. Yeah, that's how I started my show, in quarantine. All of these like amazing things were like birthed, you know, like these like shows, like it's like they're like ministries, you know what I mean? And the thing that for me is like so important that I talk about all the time is we have to speak out about recovery, because we cannot stand here anymore and let people shame and stigmatize real life.
I co-sign on that so hard. And it's so funny to be at a place now. And again, like I have a lot of relapses, but all those times that I was, you know, in learning was good for me. And I accumulate that time just like in terms of like having a big expansive knowledge. But with the community I have now that is sober, both in AA and just virtual groups and like women's groups and my circle of friends that I don't necessarily like do AA with, sobriety for me is normal. Right? Like of course I've crafted a life with the help of God to basically, I don't feel shamed. like to the point where like it's a little bit like, oh, that poor person, like they have to run away from their feelings. Like it's almost overcorrected, you know. Like there's no real judgment, right? Because everybody comes at their own time. And for me, drinking alcohol and drugging was super 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 fun, and I had a great time. I met with a lot of people until it wasn't, right? Until it like to just really until I wanted to die. I mean, really, like that was it. And so it's so wild how I felt like there was nobody else doing what I was doing when I was doing it. I felt so alone. I couldn't imagine yet another day not drinking or using. And like now it really is like I've crossed over to the other side where it's like, yes, I do, you know, and I can't be so like pink cloud about the whole thing, but I do fantasize and romanticize about my relationship with alcohol, because especially towards the end of drinking, it was like me and whatever can cut, like it was me and the booze, like, and we were, oh man, we had a great relationship. Didn't involve anybody else. Like we went to the museum together, we went to the movies together, like we went out, like we weren't secluded in a closet like y'all. Like it's all, you know, it's all romanticized garbage. But to now have the idea of being like, this is all an opportunity to get honest with ourselves. This is all an opportunity to have real relationships. This is all an opportunity to continue that practice and to not feel that shame, to not keep running. Man, like, oh, like happy, joyful, free. Like it's happening. Like it's crazy. And it's like, again, I think this is why I didn't have the patience for these kind of conversations in early sobriety. Cause I'm like, what are they talking about? Like, I don't feel that. And just through sitting in the shit, I think I've come over. And again, that's not to say that like things are butterflies and rainbows, but it's just before I was performative, I thought I knew what being happy was. And I was trying to get to looking like it. And then I tried to look like it, but I couldn't be honest enough with myself to be like, you don't like the taste of that. Like even just like silly things, like you don't like the color pink. Like you don't like donuts. I don't know, whatever. Like you don't like taking a bath. Actually, I do. But like whatever those self-care things were, like I couldn't even be, I was trying to like act like I had it all together. And I didn't even know if I liked them. Right. So like me getting sober allowed me to like step one, be like, what do you like, girl? Like what are the things that you enjoy? I had no idea because I was trying to mimic other people's behavior so strongly, you know? So you're talking to someone who's so grateful, so grateful. And also for me, it was just so clear that it was this or die. Even at a time where the outward persona was not, you know, that way. Other times where I had hit other obvious rock bottoms, sleeping outside, having sex for money. I like, what are some other stereotypical things? Like falling asleep on the train, getting like robbed, like whatever, putting myself in dangerous situations. No, I didn't. I mean, I did that and I relapsed. I did that and I relapsed. I did that and relapsed. This time around, everything was cool. I just knew. I just knew.
Just like something inside of you that was just like, you have to change. Like,
Yeah.
so there wasn't like anything like crazy that happened. It was just,
Well, this time around, yeah. I mean, like the obvious time, like I I should have gotten the message when I was literally sleeping in a park. Like, I mean, I should have gotten that message. I should have gotten that message when I dropped out of school for the fourth time. I should have gotten that message when I was like, "Oh, you're my sugar daddy for real." Like, I should have gotten that message. Like, I should have. That like should have been. So, and I, and some of it is like that was the writing on the wall, and I went back to read it, and that all of that contributed to this time, to getting it this time, and whatever that means, right? Like the beautiful thing about all this is like we only have today. Like I really don't know about tomorrow. But today it really feels like all of that stuff, right, is part of my story, shame and all, but I can talk about it. Like before, they just didn't happen because I didn't talk about it. Right? It's a little bit like, did that traumatic thing happen to you if it happened in the woods and no one heard it? Like, did the tree fall in the woods? I couldn't even speak it into existence. I couldn't. And so, having relationships with sponsors, having other people, hearing other people's stories, hearing other people's shame, and then laughing at it, not at it, but laughing with it because you identify, right? Normalizes that. And, and it's funny to like go back into like real life scenarios. And then you're like, you sort of like let, not behavior slip, but like a story slip, and watch people's jaw drop. Because some people always knew to never let themselves be treated that way or to go down that road. I have a girlfriend who's 26 who I just adore, and I just think she's the epitome of, and she's not in recovery, but she's like incredibly respectful. But she would just say like that doesn't make any, like being hungover feels bad. Like, I mean, just like like, why would I ever let a guy touch me like that? That feels bad. Where it's like, I can't even believe that, she's never woken up in an apartment and didn't know where she was. I'm like, how is that possible? I spent years waking up in apartments and not knowing where I was. It was a game. It was a genuine game. I would take a picture and be like, send it to my friends before I even figured it out. Like, it was funny. It was not funny, but it was, we tried to make it funny. And she set the bar so high in terms of like self-respect and self-love. And again, that's not to say that it was magical. She's done the work, but that she's never ever put herself in that situation. I'm baffled by this, right? Especially anybody who is here, right? We're not on the wings of victory. We don't come in the wings of victory. Like, that's some of the thing is, and I think this is the sharing of the story, is like, you don't have to have done that, and you don't have to keep doing it, but you can just know that how you're drinking, other people don't drink that way. Getting sober, I did not realize that other people didn't count other people's drinks. I didn't even realize I was doing it. I always counted drinks, not necessarily how much I was drinking, not like, oh, there's a number, but if you're having a drink, I get a drink. Oh, you're having a second one? I'll have a second one. Oh, you're having a third? I'll have a third. Because I can't go first. Or, I mean, I'm going to drink when I go home anyway. But, like that behavior or that obsession, or like, I'm waiting for you we're having a conversation and we're bonding, but I'm really waiting for you to finish your drink. Like the two things are really happening. I don't have to think about that anymore. I mean, whatever. This is happy, joy is free, right? This is the, catch me on a rough day and I'll be like, I don't know. Stuff is horrible. I just want to check out. But we got me on a good day, Good.
Well, I'm glad we did. So tell me like, what would you say like to a newcomer? Like, what's some advice that you would give to a woman, that comes in, into recovery? What would you tell her?
It's so hard because I so don't want to be cliche, but I don't even know if there's a reason why some of these like these phrases stick around because they're simple. And I really think like habits build on habit. And it's just like, don't drink just for today. And it's just like, and then I guess I'll add my addendum. Like, it's just an experiment for right now. And like keep it in the day as all that stuff. You know, none of this stuff, I didn't think of any of this stuff, but I couldn't think my own thoughts. And that your experience, how awful it is like so spot on. Like it's like it is as awful as you think it is, and you're gonna feel as awful as it is. Like and it's not that. I just think getting sober sucks. Getting sober sucks. One of the things that resonated with me one of the times was that I had heard like a life beyond my wildest dreams, which is I think something that people perk up when they're first in the room for the first 90 days. And then somebody had made it really clear for me. They had said, it's not that people had always said, I want a life beyond, I have a life beyond my wildest dreams. And he said, I have a life beyond my wildest dreams, but nothing about my life has changed. And that to me was like, it's like, oh, like you just have a different appreciation for what you have. And cultivating that, it's like, it's cultivating. Like it doesn't happen. You don't suddenly wake up happy. Like, I think what it is, this is a good question, Jim. I'm glad you asked. I think some of it is like, ooh, sorry about that. I think it is, try it on. Like it's fake. Like don't pretend. Like you don't have to feel gratitude. Like try it on first. And like just make the list and like play the game and like see what it's like. Cause it doesn't hurt you. And I think I'm a big fan of that. Like what doesn't hurt you, you might as well try. And acting as if can get you there. Cause it's not like, I think there's a lot of in sobriety on like Instagram and maybe in like Twitter and like some of that, it's all wonderful, but some of it is like pink and bubbly, which to me just wasn't my brand. You know, some people might totally strive for that. And that's like so amazing that's out there and it totally normalizes it. And it's wonderful in so many ways, but I rejected it immediately because I just was like, I'm not going to even try that on. I think I needed like hardcore basement AA. Like I needed like if there was smoking in the basements, like I totally would have like been happy to be there. I needed like how I felt on the outside or in the inside to reflect on the outside. But I think I would say like, it's not going to feel good and it's not going to feel good tomorrow, but just just pretend, like act as if, and not pretend you like it. Like you can fucking hate it, but just pretend, because I think it's that habit. It's the habit of how we talk to ourselves, the habit of like the wearing down. Like I was so worn down by the end that I just let stuff happen to me. You know, like that. I can't even imagine that I did that now. No, I mean, again, it's not even like, it's not shame, it's not trauma, it's not whatever. It's just like, I let people treat me a certain way and it just wore me down and wore me down and wore me down until I was like, well, yeah, that's how people treat me. Not in a pity way, but like, oh yeah, like I just accept that. It's funny. I used to never, I used to really have not a whole lot of patience for like self-care culture, right? I used to like you go girl and like you deserve that, you know, that kind of culture. I didn't have any patience for it because I was just like, who really talks to themselves that way? You can. Like, what? You can talk to yourself that way and believe it. That's crazy to me. All this shit is crazy to me. You've asked the question and you're like, we're done with the question, let's move on, but I'm still chewing on it. I think the last thing I would say would be like what is the other option? I think you're gonna keep doing that. There's a whole other option and it's fucking great. I think when people search to get sober, it's not because they're like desperately happy, you know. And it's just like, I hope that you don't have to keep going through that. I have to think about this more. What would I
Oh,
say? I talked to so many newcomers, right?
that's powerful, you know, because it takes time. Like, I know for me, like, it literally took me like maybe like 2.5 years into sobriety before like it hit me, like it clicked, and I realized, wow, I can do anything I
Oh,
want to do, and
I
I
like.
can have such an amazing life, you know. And I started working with these girls and having them write like goal lists, and I'd be like, no, no, no. They'd be like, you know, I want to graduate the treatment center, I want to get a car, I want to pay off probation. Like, no, 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 you don't understand what is about to happen if you stick with this thing, you know. Like, you can do whatever you want to do, which is just was so profound to me, you know?
It's like being a little kid again. It really is. It's
Yes.
like, and it's the joy of a little kid. It's like getting excited like little kids. Like when I see a birthday cake and a 3-year-old sees a birthday cake, it's the same thing. I know it's a little sugar addiction thing, but it's that same thing. When a kid goes to like a theatrical show or magic show and I go to a magic show, it's the same thing. It's like that joy. It's like, I'm not performing joy. I like know it feels joyful and happy. And the same way that like as a 5-year-old, I was like, well, as a 5-year-old, as a 5-year-old, I was destined to be an alcoholic and a drug addict. But you know, it's like when a 5-year-old says like, I want to be president, not me, because I was like, I want to be a giraffe because I had a strange sense of what my future looked like. But like when they say it, like they don't even really know what it means, but they're like, it's an emotional thing. Like I feel like I can be someone important, and like, and it's not a scarcity thing. It's not you're not important. It's I'm also important. And maybe we're all important, but also I just want to let you know, like, I'm important. Like, I'm going to be president. Like, maybe you can be president later. You can be president after me. Cool. And then, oh, you can be president after me. Like, that's like a little kid conversation. And what
Right.
you
Yes.
just said and the way that you said it reminded me so much of just like, I can do anything. It's crazy. Let me tell you what I can't do. I can't do anything if I drink and use. I can't. I can't. And the things just keep getting taken away from me. And I feel like they're being taken away from me, right? I feel like, oh, me, things are being done to me when I'm using. Oh, the audacity. Oh, and then the other way, when I can do stuff, I can make any of these things happen. And it doesn't feel crazy. I used to get so mad at people who were like, I can do anything. You're like, oh, you crazy person. I was like, real. You really can. I'm so
Yep.
jazzed about that. Ugh. That's the thing you say to a newcomer. You could do anything, like a little kid. We have to talk to little kids.
Yep, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your transparency, and thank you for the excitement you bring into recovery, and for
That's the
being a
best.
strong woman in recovery. I mean,
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you found New York and the community there that you found. I'm in Athens, Georgia, which is like UGA country, go Bulldogs, right? So here we have that same kind of community, and I've never seen it anywhere else. So I'm so excited that you just shared that with me.
Well, even in your little, I'll say that like I did end up getting sober in first or one of my goes in like Boston with like a strong accent. And I'm just picked up on this. Like, I know that if I had been in Athens, Georgia, I could have gotten sober because you guys have a great accent and anything. I can hear the word of God better through an accent. So I think like that's New York, that's Boston, that's you guys, maybe like cuss down south. Like you guys have strong recovery, but also like God speaks through your accent, just so you know. Like it's incredible to hear. And it's incredible that you have this platform. And thank you so much for having me here.
So everybody, you guys make sure you check out, so we can find you. Tell us where we can find you at besides on Instagram.
Yeah, on Instagram, you can find us at FCKING sober 90 _ podcast. It's kind of a mouthful.
I'm gonna put the link in for that,
Oh, that
for
would be
there.
great. Amazing. And then we have a website, FCKING soberpodcast.com. So just the name, there is no asterisk and there is no U. Yes. So, and we're coming out with a season 2, so stay tuned.
Awesome. Thank you for all your service and all your work, everybody. Mac from New York. Thank you so much. Make sure you guys subscribe to Jamie Tall on YouTube, and we'll see you next time on Recovery Inspired Hope.